Yes. Last Friday we have discussed about Buddhist concept on devas, and tonight, do spirits or ghosts exist in this world? And can they disturb us? If so, how can we avoid them? So there are three parts. Do spirit and ghosts exist in this world? Can they disturb us? If so, how can we avoid them? Actually, I have never seen another country where I have met so many people who very strongly believe the existence of ghosts and spirits other than Malaysia. The reason, I think we can understand. Three ethnic groups, Indians, Chinese and Malays, have introduced their own traditional belief. So one group learned from another group and added into their own belief. So it is a very rich culture in Malaysia. Whenever there is any sickness or any trouble, at once they think the ghost or spirits or devil, if not another aspect, charms, black magic and so many other things. I remember a few years ago, an old lady, I think about 75 years old lady, came to see me. And she told me that she is very sick and she went to so many doctors, they also cannot diagnose. And I believe that someone has done some sort of charm. Then I told her, you are 75 years old. Do you think people make charms? Still she cannot believe. She strongly believes there must be something. Another reason is, from our childhood, we have heard so many stories from our parents and grandparents and from others. So these ideas of belief very strongly implanted or settled down in our mind. And it is very difficult for us to get rid of such belief. Now take for instance, if we have not heard anything when we were young about ghosts or devils or spirits and all these things, we never maintain this fear in our mind. That is why in Western countries, very few people maintain this kind of belief. They just ignore. Even then, we cannot say there are no such disturbances in those countries. So today, we must understand what is the Buddhist attitude. Are we going to believe the existence of such unknown, unseen, unheard, some sort of living beings? We have given different names as spirits or ghosts or whatever names. There is no ground for us to deny the existence of all those invisible living beings. When you refer to various discourses of the Buddha, especially Ata Natya Sutta, in the Paritta chanting books, you can see a particular discourse where we can see how those spirits and ghosts or yakka or devils come and disturb human beings and how to avoid, how to get rid of their disturbances. So we cannot say, from the Buddhist point of view, we don't believe. On the other hand, the Buddha has given us very rational, very reasonable advice not to surrender ourselves to those devils and ghosts and spirits. If we know how to deal with them, we can associate with them, we can make use of them, we can avoid their disturbances. This advice you can see in the Buddha's teaching. As Buddhists, we never worship, never pray to such ghosts or devils or spirits. But many people do some offerings. Because there is one particular sutra which is called Tiropuddha Sutta. In that discourse, the Buddha says how our departed ones who were born in this so-called spirit world. There is no separate world called spirit world. A spirit form, a spirit do exist everywhere. So there is no separate world. Then they are very unfortunate. The Buddha has mentioned 4 names, that means categorized into 4 groups. Kuppipasika, Nijjhamatanhika, Paratattvupajivi, and Pansupisaka, according to their way of life. Those spirits are divided into 4 groups. All of them exist here in this world, on this earth. First one is called Kuppipasika. Throughout their life, they suffer from hunger and thirst. There is nobody in this world who can satisfy, quench their thirst or hunger. There were few incidents during the Buddha's time. The Buddhas and Arhantas can see them. And there are some who have developed their jhanic power through their meditation, also can see some of those spirits and devas. Our naked eyes are not strong enough to see them directly, but we can see some indications of their existence, some disturbances as well as favoritism, both. So, one day, one of the disciples of the Buddha, when he was going out for his alms round for his food, he saw one of these Kuppipasika spirits or ghosts who was suffering from hunger and thirst. So he decided to feed and by pouring water into his mouth. By using his begging bowl, from morning up to evening, he tried to quench his thirst. He could not do that. Then he came and reported to the Buddha. Then the Buddha has narrated the previous birth story, what this person has done to be born as such unfortunate living being to suffer for a long period. But they are not permanent. There are no permanent ghost or spirit in this world. There's a limited period, few years or many years, maybe thousands of years. One day there will be an end to their suffering. Then those who have created so much miseries, sufferings, fear, and disturbing others' properties, and allowing innocent people to suffer and starve, such people, after their death, rebirth takes place in such unfortunate state because of their cruelty and very unfortunate or very unkind way of life that they have led. So all of them will be born in such particular group called a spirit form as Kuppipasa. Then another group, Nijjhamatantika, always crying and asking to gain something. Whatever people provide, offer, either as food or any kind of offering, they never satisfy. Craving is burning in their mind. There is nobody in this world who can satisfy their craving. There are such human beings also, not only ghosts. Then another group, Pansu Pisachaka. This is the most unfortunate group. And they are the one who depend on the human saliva and urine and all other dirts. They are delicacy like durian cakes to them. They really enjoy it. And they do exist in certain dirty places, drains, rivers. They do exist. So they suffer there for a long period. After that, again another rebirth takes place. Although they were born as such unfortunate living beings, but still they have certain other good karmas that they have accumulated during their previous birth. Then again they get the chance to be born as either some animals or, if possible, if they had enough good merits, again rebirth can take place as human beings. Then the fourth one is called Paradattupajivi. This is the group that we are trying to communicate. By performing meritorious deeds, by transferring merits, we cannot support the other three groups. Please remember this. Those who are suffering from hunger, those who are suffering from unsatisfied craving, and those who live on such dirts, by transferring our merits, we cannot release them from their suffering until they complete their period, the time, according to their bad karmas. Then the fourth group, because this definition you can find only in Buddhism in this way. What is the fourth group? Paradattupajivi, those who depend on others. The meaning of this word, paradatta upajivi, those who depend on others, some sort of spirit form. And who are those people? Why rebirth take place in such unfortunate states? There are many human beings in this world who do not commit very bad sins or cruel, dangerous, harmful things. On the other hand, they also do not accumulate enough good merits. They have no knowledge whatsoever about their next life. Throughout their life, they think only about their survival, their living, their pleasure. They have neglected all their duties and responsibilities, and they are ready even to enjoy their life at the risk of others' happiness. That means by disturbing others, they like to enjoy themselves. Now this is the situation. I think even today the majority here in this world belong to this group. Too much of selfishness, never think of others, how others feel, and everything they do only for their own pleasure, never ready to extend their services, their kindness, cooperation towards others. And this is the situation. When such people die, what happens? Since they have not committed very bad sins, it is impossible for them to have a rebirth either in hell or animal kingdom or in any other forms of ghost forms or spirit form. Because the bad karmas are not strong enough to condition this kind of unfortunate life. On the other hand, since they have not accumulated enough good merits to continue this human life, because we are here today as human beings due to various good karmic forces that we have accumulated during our previous birth. So we are spending by using all the good merits that we have accumulated. So if we lead this life without thinking about the next existence, then we will be in trouble. This is the uncertainty of our existence. Because some people think, why should we try to attain nirvana? We can live like this. We enjoy our life, do some meritorious deeds. Again, rebirth can take place as human beings, and during that lifetime also we accumulate some good merit. Again, we can exist as human beings, then we continue like this. But remember, the life is uncertain. Human mind is uncertain. Any moment, changes can take place in your mind. Today, you are very good. If you are not very good, at least you are good. But do you think this goodness you can maintain forever like this without changing? Certain circumstances, temptation, and your emotion, your anger, your jealousy, and various other evil forces completely change your attitude. That is the uncertainty of the mind. We have seen many so-called good people, religious people, have become very nasty, very cruel and very wicked people. This is the nature of the mind. Then the next existence also take place. You have heard this earlier. According to the last thought which appeared at the dying. Although we have accumulated some good karma, since we cannot lead a perfect life without making mistake, without committing evil, at the dying moment, and we do not know which kind of karmic thought appears. This is another uncertainty. That is why it is necessary for us to train our mind, get used to the meritorious deeds that we have done, go on contemplating, thinking. In those days, each and every person keep a diary, a notebook. Whenever they do some good deeds, they record this one. Today I have given $1 to a hungry man. Then write down. So when they grow old, from time to time, they ask somebody to read this. All the good deeds done by them. But don't write down all the bad deeds that you have done. Because you get a lot of confusion and you pollute your mind. Repenting is not the solution from the Buddhist point of view. We do not repent. We pollute our mind when we repent. Then, I can tell you a very interesting story. A very devout, well-known king who has done so much for Buddhism by erecting pagodas, temples, and supporting thousands of monks and promoting Buddhism. So when he was very old, he has recorded all those things. He asked one of his ministers to read his diary. He was very, very sick at that time. So when he started to read, he was listening. Then he mentioned a particular incident. He had a war between his brother and some other enemies. And the king was defeated for the time being. He had to go and hide in the jungle with his assistant. Then he was very hungry and asked whether there is anything to eat. Then his assistant told him, this morning I have prepared a packet of this fried rice. Oh, very good. Then he told him, you must divide this into 4, allocate into 4 portions. Then the minister asked, why should he divide into 4? Only three of us. Host, myself, and only three of us. No, that is not the reason. I have never taken any food in my life without offering a token to a monk or a holy man. Today I don't want to break this. Then his assistant asked, where can we find a monk, a holy man here in the jungle? At that time there were many arahantas. This is more than 2,000 years ago. He said, don't worry. Then he started to recite. If there is any arahanta who can hear my wording, please come and receive my offering. Otherwise, I am not going to take my food. I don't want to break my principle. So when he was reciting like this, an arahant suddenly appeared in front of him. Then he offered about this much rice. Although this is a very minor thing, this penetrated deeply into his mind, because at this juncture, when he was in trouble, the meritorious deed that he has done is a remarkable thing. He has erected huge pagodas, Buddha images, and so many other meritorious deeds. As a king, it is not very difficult for him to do. Just give order, thousands of people come and work for him. But this one he has done himself. So when the minister mentioned this particular incident, the king said, stop, enough. That means he wants to keep this in his mind. He doesn't want anymore. Appealing to his mind. That has become the last thought before his death. And it is mentioned after his death, because since he was not a holy man or an arahant, rebirth has taken place in Tusita Devaloka as one of the devas. This is very important. So whenever you do some good deeds, every day we do something. Right now, when you are free, go on reading. Gives happiness. Then renew. You increase your happiness. And that happiness itself again become another merit. Merit means, in the Pali or the Buddha's language, happiness that we gain when we do some good deeds. That is the meaning of merits. If we do good deeds without happiness in our mind, it is half-cooked rice. Cannot eat, cannot digest. So, now I don't know where. Started to talk about ghosts. So what happened to me? Oh yes, uncertainty of our mind, uncertainty of our life. Forever we have to continue this, accumulating merits and again die, again rebirth. Accumulate merits and again die, and again rebirth. Where is the end of it? Then the Buddha says, this is a real nuisance, uncertain, miserable. So if you are wise, you must try to see the end of this cycle of birth and death. After that there is nothing for you to worry. That is called nirvana. To see the end of all our problems. After that, not necessary to do any meritorious deeds. Completed the journey. So those people who have not done any meritorious deeds, who have not committed bad karmic deeds or the bad thoughts, bad words or evil action which we can regard as bad karma. So they have not accumulated enough good karma or enough bad karma either to be born as a human being or an animal or to be in hell or ghost world. But this particular spirit form, this is called Paradattupajivi. Rebirth has taken place already. And there is another misconception here I have to clarify. Many people believe that after our death there will be an interval gap between death and rebirth. Even among certain Buddhist scholars also, it is a controversial subject. But when we refer directly to the basic teachings of the Buddha, there is no such interval. And this is the reason. This existence as spirit form can remain either for a few days or a few weeks or a few months or a few years. After that, another rebirth takes place. Many people have regarded this as existence as a spirit in between death and rebirth. So that interpretation is wrong. It is a life. And some others say departed persons, a spirit, remain for a certain period in searching a suitable place. Very strongly believe. That is why they have fixed certain days to perform some religious rites and rituals. 7 days, 49 days. They say this is the day, this very day, the departed person either come home or rebirth take place. Therefore we must support. This is our interpretation according to certain experience. But in the Buddha's teaching there is no such word. That it will take either 7 days or 49 days or 3 months or 1 year. There is no such teaching. But remember this particular state. The departed persons can remain in spirit form for a few days or few months. For that I can give another story. A devout lady was very religious. One day she has done a bad mistake. And that created a lot of worries, mental disturbances. So at the dying moment, this particular incident, that thought appeared in her mind. But she has not done any other bad karmas. Very religiously. After her death, rebirth has taken place in unfortunate state. Then her husband came to the Buddha to find out where his wife is, in which heaven, because there is no doubt now, real dedicated, devout lady. He wanted to find out from the Buddha where this lady is, in which heaven. Then the Buddha knew that this person came to ask this question. So by using his psychic power, the Buddha influence his mind to forget this question. There are so many techniques adapted by the Buddha, because this person is not very intelligent man. If he asked this question, the Buddha had to say. After that, this man can become a nasty fellow. My wife has done so much for Buddhism. Now the Buddha says she is in a suffering state. What is the use of this Buddhism? Throw away. And he can mislead thousands of others. By knowing this situation, because he cannot understand the real situation. Next day also he came. Same thing has happened. 7 days continuously he came to see the Buddha. When he go back, he remembered, oh, today I forgot. 7 days continued. On the 7th day he came. That day he did not forget. Then asked, actually I came 7 days to ask this question. I don't know what happened to me, I forgot. So I am very keen to know where my wife is. Then the Buddha says, she is in Tusita heaven. Because that very day, release from that particular state and rebirth has taken place in Tusita heaven. You understand? Only 7 days. This is the nature of karmic thought that which appear in our mind at the dying moment. Short period or long period. Then what are we trying to do? How to support them? Transference of merits to the departed one only for this group. We cannot do anything for others until they complete their period, karmic period. No one can release them. If we try to relieve those who are in hell and animal kingdom and any other form of ghost or spirit forms, just like that we are trying to go and relieve our friends who are in Podu jail. It doesn't work. They must spend that particular period in the Podu jail, either 3 months or 3 years or 7 years. By transferring merit, we cannot release them. So, then how are we going to do this? Since they have not done very bad karma, it's very easy to promote, to support, to push them. So when we transmit, radiate our mental vibration and the sound vibration also by reciting something. That is why we say, Idam me jnatinam hotu sukhita hontu jnatayo. May these merits, my departed one, may they be well and happy. There are two energies here, mental energy and sound vibration, both are working. And we do not know how these things really work. And the departed persons in this particular spirit form are waiting day and night, waiting to receive. That means they attune their receiving set to catch the wavelength. As soon as we release the vibration from here, they receive. Then the happiness that we experience at that time after receiving this, they get the chance to get rid of these unfortunate states and have another rebirth. That is how it works. But this method you cannot find in any other religion, because they pray and worship and appeal to God, asking God to release or to promote or send to heaven. But that is not the Buddhist attitude. Now we never pray to the Buddha or any god asking them to release our departed one and send them to heaven. It is not practical from the Buddhist point of view. So what we do, we directly contact them. I told you, although we depart physically, our mental relationship is still working. So last Friday I mentioned this. So very easily, if they are related to us, either relationship or friendship, some sort of attachment or inclination must be there. Otherwise, it is not easy for us to transfer the merits to unknown people. Difficult to communicate. But we can radiate our compassion, kindness towards all the living beings, including animals also. And we radiate towards the spirit and ghosts and devils also. In fact, there is many people recite this Yamo Raja, Dhammikoso Yamo Raja, the king of the hell. We transfer the merits, we invite the king of the hell also to share the merits that we have accrued. Yamo mitta manussacha majjatta verikapicha. So we do not hate even the king of the hell who punish us when we go there. We develop our goodwill and relationship and transfer the merit to them also. And this is the Buddhist attitude. Sometimes we may get some sort of favoritism when we go there. He can remember us. But I have seen one film, and hell. But the king of the hell, according to that film, is a Chinese. That means Chinese have more chances. Anyway, we had to ban that film because there are a lot of distortion and misinterpretation about the teachings of the Buddha. We had to advise the government not to censor and allow this film. So, now I have explained 4 groups of spirit forms and their way of life and meaning of transference of merit. Then disturbance. When they experience more suffering, physically and mentally, and they radiate their hatred, their anger, and their jealousy. Because of this radiation of their hatred or anger or jealousy, we have to suffer. That is how we suffer. It is not that directly they come and attack us. For that I can give an incident. You might have heard this before. What happened in England? I read this in a magazine published in England. In countryside there was a rest house, very small rest house. They had only 5 bedrooms. And one particular bedroom was completely closed. They did not allow anybody to go and sleep there because they have seen very unfortunate incident in that particular room. One day, a priest went to this rest house to stay there, and they told him, we have only 4 rooms, all occupied as one particular room. Under any circumstance we are not going to open this. Then what is the cause of it? This told him, many people who occupied this room had a very, very bitter experience, and some had heart attack and some died. So we don't allow anybody to go and stay in this room. But this priest had a very strong mind. If we can develop this willpower in your mind, remember, at that time, all those ghosts and spirits and devils also become powerless, because human mind is more energetic. So the development of human mind is to guard ourselves physically and mentally. So after that, the fear that we had in our mind regarding this spirit and ghost completely disappeared. This man had that strong mind. He said, don't worry, open the door. I take the risk. I want to go and sleep. So they opened the door. He went inside. He went to sleep. Now he was waiting very anxiously to see the fun. He was not scared of anything. So when he was sleeping, he felt that somebody pulled his leg at midnight. He was very happy. That is what he wanted. Then he shouted, "What do you want?" Then he heard a voice. I heard, "I want my money. I want my money." Then he knew. He got up, sit on the light, there's nothing. Then, he's a very wise man. He went on searching everywhere in that room. He suspected one particular area. There must be something here. He opened the door, went out, and found out some sort of iron rod or something, and started digging. After digging, he found out a metal box. Open, money. Right. That is what he said. I want my money. So he closed it again and threw away. And closed the doors and windows, again sleep peacefully. He did not tell others also. Next day morning, he told them actually what has happened last night. Then the owner of this rest house told him, few years ago, there was a moneylender in this room. He was staying here for some time and goes out, and that was his business. So he buried this box, money box, in that particular room. And he died in the same room. And when he died, he remembered his money. Now this is another danger. By working so hard, we collect and accumulate it and crave for that and die. If that craving influences our mind at the dying moment, we had it. Rebirth cannot take place in a favorable state because of that attachment, craving towards that particular property. Usually, rebirth takes place as one of the spirit form. Then, they do not go away also, because of their attachment and craving, same place exist. And they have very strong jealousy. That is why they disturb everybody who enter into this room. That craving still working toward this particular money box. So this is a country where people do not believe this kind of thing. In England, there are thousands of stories in this part of the world where we can prove such experiences. Many people had. People are ignorant until the last moment, until they die. They maintain that craving towards their property. This is a very foolish idea. There will be certain period for us to enjoy our life by using what we have accumulated. And certain period we had to allocate, if not hand over, to get rid of the responsibilities and worries and disturbances. Maintain free mind before we die. Then we can die peacefully. Now, in my case, I can die at any moment without such worries. Because I have no personal property to claim as my property. I have so many things for me to make use of them, but they are not my properties. So others can make use of them after my death, but I am not jealous. So we had to develop our mind up to that extent. While we are living here, at this age, yes, work hard, earn, enjoy your life, reasonable way, no harm at all. But don't be crazy. Don't develop too much attachment, craving towards your thing. Don't open your jewelry box and money box every night and go and count, close, next day again open and count and again. That is what many people are doing. And that gives happiness. That means craving, increasing this craving. When we come to a certain age, try to get rid of all these things, create a lot of disturbances. I remember a monk, well-educated monk, who preached for people to get rid of their craving and this and that and everything. He was about 75 to 80 years old. The key to his cupboard and drawers always he keep under his pillow. He doesn't allow anybody to touch this key. So when he was very sick, his hand also shivering like this, from time to time he puts his hand and touch the key, whether still the bundle of keys still there under his pillow. Can you imagine? If a monk can behave like this, what about the ordinary people? Although he has become a monk, he has not reduced his craving from his mind. And do you think, although he is a monk, that he can have a better rebirth? Impossible. There were many monks during the Buddha's time, he pointed out. Those spirit and ghosts, and do you know who these people are? During their, one of the previous birth is not directly, they were monks. And what they have done during their previous birth, the Buddha has revealed to the other monks. Therefore, this is a very good lesson for all of you. So, now this is the evidence to prove they do exist. Then, how to relieve only some of them but not all. Then how to avoid their disturbances? That is the most important aspect for us. We are scared of them. At night time we don't like to go out because of the fear that we have deposited in our mind when we were young. If that fear was not accommodated in our mind, we are free from this. They do exist. The spirits, ghosts, and any other invisible living beings exist. When we develop fear in our mind, then disturbances directly come there. Because the mind becomes a very soft ground for this vibration to disturb. When the mind is disturbed, remember, all the other glands and organs and brain cells and blood circulation, physical system, metabolism completely change. Then sicknesses. That is what many people believe due to charm, black magic. The mind created. If that fear is not in that mind, it is impossible for those spirits and ghosts and others to create disturbance. Then, what is the remedy prescribed by the Buddha? He never said you must go and pray and worship to avoid their disturbance. That is not the Buddhist attitude. We must maintain our human dignity. Why should we worship those stupid ghosts? We have human mind, human intelligence. They are real stupid. Is it not shameful thing for us to go and worship them? Then the Buddhist attitude. When there are such disturbances, what do you have to do? You must have full confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. When you read Dhajagga Sutta in the Paritta chanting book, you can see the advice given by the Buddha. Whenever you have fear, suspicion, tension, insecurity, feeling, usually you take refuge in certain gods, worship, pray, recite something. The Buddha says that is not the remedy. You may get temporary relief, that's all, for the time being. Again the same problems, disturbances come to you. Then he says, Tathagato bhikkhave arahan samma sambuddho vita rago vita doso vita moho abhiru achambi anutrasi apalai. You can see these words in the Dhajagga Sutta. The Buddha, the holy, enlightened one, is completely free from lust, greed, selfishness, hatred, anger, jealousy, ignorance. Very dynamic, very strong force. Again, they never have fear, tension, suspicion in their mind. Mind is completely free. And when you take refuge in them, when you remember their name, this gives a lot of protection, precautions, consolation for you to get rid of your fear, tension, suspicion you have in your mind regarding those unknown, invisible, unimaginable spirit form. This is that way. If not, remember the Dhamma. What is Dhamma? Dhamma is the universal law. Dhamma is the truth. So when we remember the Dhamma, we try to understand the Dhamma. When understanding of the Dhamma appeared in our mind, our stupidity, our ignorance disappeared. Then we strongly maintain this belief, or we develop our confidence through the power of the truth, the power of the universal law, the nature, the power of the cosmic energy. All these things are called dharma. Then the fear all disappears. Then he says, remember the Sangha, the holy order, who have dedicated their whole life to serve, to maintain holy life, pure life, harmless life. They are harmless people. The Buddha is not talking about these ordinary monks who live today. Sometimes they may create more fear in your mind. Some are very cunning, some are very selfish, some are very dangerous, some know how to blindfold you, take advantage of you, all sort of things. The Buddha is not talking about all those monks who exist today, but he was directly referring to the Sangha community. Take refuge in the Sangha community. Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Now let us take the other religions, like Hindus, Christians, Muslims. They have strong faith, belief on God. Whether God exists or not, it is immaterial. That belief, very strong faith, gives a lot of confidence. Oh, why worry? God is there to protect me. That psychological effect gives a lot of inspiration. It is not the power of God actually. By taking the name of God, we develop this power in our mind. So if they can do that in that way, there is no difficulty for Buddhists to develop the same mental energy by taking the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha into their mind. Think, oh, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha protect me. Then the fear disappears. Then the mind becomes very dynamic force, not scared. By maintaining fear in our mind, whatever we do, without developing confidence, we won't be able to get rid of, the disturbances. Again, I have read an article, not only a spirit or ghost or devil, even animals, take dogs, fierce dogs. If a dog comes to attack you, if you develop fear at that time, so they are very, very sensitive, these animals, their instinctive power is very strong, they smell this, then they attack. If they develop, if you can strengthen your mind at that time not to be scared of dog, dog does not attack you. The fear. The human mind can develop this, but not so easy for you to do this. Don't try. Just if you get into trouble, don't come and blame me. Because Reverend asked me not to run away. But the fear is there already. So if we can develop this, no one can harm you. You know that devil, demon or cannibal, Alavaka, when he came to attack and kill the Buddha, he lived on human flesh. First he threatened him. The Buddha obeyed, listened to him. Third time, then he showed his color. The Buddha said, I am not going to obey. I am not going to listen to you. Then the devil had second. There is nobody in this world who could challenge me. This man had the power to challenge. I think he must be somebody. You understand? How that devil also lowered his power in front of the Buddha. Then he had no other choice. He said, all right, if you are not going to obey me, I ask one question. If you do not answer, I split your heart into two. I take your legs and throw into the other bank of the river. There was a river. Threatened the Buddha again. Then when you read Alavaka Sutta, also in the same book, you can see what the Buddha said. He said, Nakkvahantang avso passami sadevake loke samarake sabrahmake sasamana brahmaniya pajaya sadeva manuse. You must understand. There is nobody in this whole universe, including here, this world, Deva, Brahma, Mara, or any world system, who can do that to me. Come on. Then devil started to shiver. Then he said, don't talk too much. If you got any question, you can ask. What is your question? Then you can see this. Kinsudhavittang purisassa settang kingsu sucinno sukhamavahati kingsu have sadhutarang rasanang katang jiving jivitamahu settang. These are the questions. The answer the Buddha gave, Saddhida vittang purisassa settang dhammo sucinno sukhamavahati isani sangso dhamme sucinno nadugating gacchati dhammachari. Questions and answers. This is the dialogue that they had later when the disciples wanted to compose and record. They narrated in this form the questions and answers directly. The first question is Kinsudha vittang purisassa settang. What is the highest wealth for a man? This devil asked. What is the best wealth for a man? Then the Buddha said, Saddhida vittang purisassa settang. Saddha, confidence, faith is the highest wealth in this man, in this world, for a man. All the other things are second, immaterial. What is the meaning of this? And this confidence, this faith, you had to apply from the very beginning up to the end of your life for everything. For your life, for your family, for your husband, for your wife, your children, your work, your job, and your religion, and everything. You must have confidence. Then you can carry on your life very smoothly without facing many problems. Now if you have full confidence in your wife, your husband, then there will be any conflicts, separation in your married life. Again, confidence between children and parents. In your job, whatever business, must have confidence. Otherwise you do things reluctantly. So the meaningful answer given, again when you come to religion, if you do things without confidence, without faith, without real understanding, you waste your valuable time. Now you come and listen. This is Dhamma. If you come here just for fun or curiosity sake, just to listen what these monks talk, no, if your idea is come and learn something useful for our life, to understand what is right, what is wrong, and what is the Buddhist attitude towards this and that, then you pave the way, you open your mind to understand. That means you have confidence. Otherwise you won't come in. So we can analyze this Buddha word, one word, for the whole life applicable. So, by using that enlightenment, what is enlightenment? This mental energy that he developed. How he toppled this devil and demons or cannibal. Then he surrendered and he took refuge in the Buddha Dhamma, became one of his followers. So, if you know how to maintain this mental attitude, there is no reason for us to create fear. Fear of dead bodies and all sort of, mostly imagination. Our own imagination creates fear in our mind. I am not scared of dead bodies. I am scared of living bodies. They are the real troublemakers, dangerous people. That dead body cannot do anything for us. But people are scared, hey, dead body, yeah. See those medical students, those study anatomy. After studying, when they come home, they bring a human skull or the whole skeleton, keep in their room and study also at night time. No devil, no spirit to disturb them, because they are not scared of this. I think we have to continue this some more. Some more devils may come out next Friday.